Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our webinar, Value Stream Architecture. What is it and how can it help? My name is Laurel Heenan, and I am delighted to be your moderator today. Before I introduce you to our presenter, I just want to cover a couple housekeeping details. This webinar is being recorded, and we will provide you with a link to the recording tomorrow as well as the slide deck. As you may have noticed, all attendees are on mute to avoid background noise, but that doesn't mean we don't want to hear from you. We will leave time at the end for questions and answers, but if you have questions or comments as we go, please type them in the GoToWebinar control panel in the questions box. All right, our presenter today is Dan Feminella. Dan Feminella is a senior value stream architect at Tasktop. He has 20 plus years of a technical experience ranging from designing and implementing business process integration and middleware solutions, ITSM solutions, IT asset management, ALM solutions, release management solutions, and DevOps solutions. At Tasktop, Dan helps companies in a wide variety of industries bridge the gap between technologists and the business through the power of value stream management. And with that, I will pass over to Dan to begin the webinar on value stream architecture.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Again, this is Dan Feminella, and I will be, your speaker for the next hour. So this is me, wonderful picture. Yes, I have gray hair. I've been doing it a long time, but we don't need this slide anymore. Before I get into value stream management and value stream architecture, I want to kind of spin a little story on how we got here and how we're getting to this type of world. We've been talking a lot about in the industry and also here at Tasktop about project to product. And that is really moving from project management into product management. And a little history is for project management, you have to remember that Frederick Taylor in the 1900s came up with the scientific method, real project management. He worked with a gentleman named Harry Gantt. You'll recognize that name from the Gantt chart. And Henry Gantt came up with the Gantt chart in 1910s, mid-10s, 12, 13, 14, so 100 years ago. And they put together this, their project management and the Gantt chart to help manage and build the Hoover Dam in 1930. So if we think about it, IT today is using the same kind of project management that was used to build the Hoover Dam in the 1930s. So there needs to be kind of a shift in how we build software. So we're moving more into product management. So instead of waterfall, into more flow, into kind of repetitive tasks, and manage the products themselves and not worry about the product. So for budgets, for project management, it always started with the learning and upfront costs and planning, and then when the delivery happened, that's when people started getting money back from their return. For product management, it's all iterative, so small gains get us kind of returns quicker. For the people aspect, in project management, people are brought to the work. So you build a team, you do something, you disband the team. In product management, work is brought to the people. So you have a consistent team that is working together, understands the product they're working on, they work well with each other, and they stay together, and they keep working on that product as it evolves. So for project management, build to get it done and move on. In product management, build it to last and then support it. So for visibility in project management, the PMO has the visibility into it, but the business side really has no good visibility into what's happening. For product management, the business and the technology are talking all the time. They have good visibility. They're mapped to the business. They're mapped to the technology. So everybody is working hand in hand. So that brings us to car production. And you might say car production, and I'm going to say yes, car production. So for car production, they have integrated product lines. In IT, we have disconnected tool chains. They do manage everything as a product. We manage everything as a project today. They architect around flow. IT architects in technology layers. They optimize end to end. We optimize in silos. They measure the business results. We measure in proxy metrics. So Google Maps is a wonderful thing. This is, whoops, there's a timer on that. Ooh, can I pause that? Nope. Why is that doing that? Really have to fix that slide, don't I? Don't know how to fix that. Can I pause it? Is it paused? It seems like it's paused right now. Good. So this is the BMW Leipzig plant. And the reason I want to talk about this is because this is where they build cars, right? And if you look at those 5 fingers, you know, where the red arrow is pointing, that is part of the production line. And when BMW adds a new feature to the production line, they want to add a new step in the process, they extend that building. And so you see how those 4 or 5 fingers are different sizes. And you may say, okay, we want to talk about IT, not BMW and car production. But the epiphany here is that BMW treats this plant as a product. They make it flow end to end. Everybody knows what's upstream from them. Everybody knows what's downstream from them. And it all works together as a continuous object, right? Yes, cars come out the end, but ultimately, it is all managed as a single product. So the plant itself is a product for them. And yes, they spit out cars. So what we need to do in IT is we need to have all of our architecture, all of our tools, all of our things we use to be combined together as a single flow from end to end. So manage your tool chain as a product. The DevOps people, they're getting this, right? You do a commit and it starts doing a pipeline, starts doing builds, it starts doing scans, it starts doing automated tests. All of those different tools are working together. If you go left from there, the QA people, they're in a silo. Sometimes the developer's in a silo, project management's in a silo, requirements are in a silo. And you can't do value stream architecture until you can get your entire tool chain from end to end working together, just like this BMW plant. Okay, so instead of cars coming out of the end of our product line, what flows in software delivery? So we work on features, defects, risks, and debt. These 4 things together are MISI, mutually exclusive and comprehensive exhaustive, which means that the CEO of our company who kind of came up with these, he is big in the kind of industry. He's, buddies with Gene Kim, with Dean Leffingwell. He went to them and said, these are the 4 things that flow in software delivery. Can you take one away or can you add any more? And neither of them could knock it down to 3 or come up with a 5th. So all of these are unique amongst themselves. And so this is what I think you should track and manage and work to in your value stream. So what happens when you talk about these 4 tools, these 4 flow items? So everybody knows that our business leaders are telling us, and our customers are saying, I need more features, I need more features. So if you're pushing features into your tool, into your products, great. But the more features you add, the more technical debt and more risks that are being added in if you're not looking at them. Your quality will go down because you're pushing for features. So your defect work will go up, which is fine, but you have to understand this, and you can't understand this unless you track these items. So what happens is a death spiral. The death spiral is your quality goes down, your debts and risks go up, which means that your defect work increases, and that's all you're working on, and more defect work, which means your feature work comes to a halt, and your business owners and your business customers are not very happy with you. So how can you get around this? I recommend stopping your feature work. And you might go, whoa, that's not a really good thing. But Bill Gates, in January of 2002, wrote this very famous internal email called Trustworthy Computing. It went to all full-time employees at Microsoft. He had done this once before in the mid-90s when he said that all of their software and all of their tools must be internet able and be able to work with the internet. And he was right. But in 2002, he said, we have to stop working on our OSs today, and we have to worry about security risks. So he stopped production at Microsoft for about 2 months and sent all of his developers to security coding training and to understand how to code and avoid security risks. So he ultimately stopped future work, which could have been a bad thing, but Microsoft's still doing pretty good today. But if you do this, and if you have your business owners and your business customers in mind and as partners, what happens is you can get on top of your debt work. You can bring your technical debt and your risks down, which ultimately means your quality and your future work will go back up, and you get a smiley face. So you can't know that you need to do this unless you can track these things. And you can't track these things unless you are managing your value stream end to end, all of the tools, and have your business partners as partners, so you can show this to them and explain why I might do a little bit less feature work this month because I've got to get rid of some technical debt. And I'll talk about how all this ties together in a bit. So what really do you need to do is your true north should be focus is on the accelerating the delivery of the business value, which means you want to reduce your flow time from the business idea, hypotheses to delivery and feedback, which means business success, higher engagement, and more innovation. We're doing that today. People are saying, "Whoa, I've got flow time. I'm doing Scrum. I'm doing Agile. I'm doing cycles. I'm doing everything very quickly," which is great, and we are doing that. And people have embraced Agile and embraced Scrum and embraced, kind of product kind of management. But it's usually just in the middle in the development. So a lot of people are doing water scrum fall, or as I like to call it, is Wagile. So you've got in the middle that high acceleration, during design and development and testing, a lot of iteration. But upstream to the left is you're waiting for work, and the planning process. But once you get it, you do it really quickly. But once you finish coding, sometimes delivery is manual. Yes, we're doing continuous integration. Yes, we're doing continuous delivery. Yes, we're doing continuous deployment. But until you get there, you might be waiting for CAB reviews. We might be waiting for delivery windows. You might be waiting for quarterly reviews. So your development might be quick, but to the left and right might be slow. Now, this is something that we're talking about, but Barclays, last year at the DevOps Summit in London, they actually made fun of themselves. And this was presented at the summit by John Smart. And he pointed out how, yay, we are so freaking agile. Development was. But before that, they had monthly idea triage. They had quarterly steering committee meetings. They had annual budget approval. So there's an entire year before anything gets done. So if you want to do a feature next year, you've got to plan it this year. And then after they did the feature, they had monthly and quarterly kind of waiting for releases. So yes, their development was agile, but left and right wasn't. And the only way to get that to work is really plan as a value stream, get it left to right, everybody working together to get these features and defects and risks kind of out the door as quick as you can. So why value stream architecture? Left on their own, vertical silos will naturally create disruption in the flow of value. So if you have different teams and different tools and different silos, you can't get a good flow across these tools unless everybody's working together. That's why you need to talk to your company about value stream architecture and doing an entire kind of left to right thing. So what is value stream architecture and what is value stream management? It's an industry term. It's not something that I made up. It's not something that Tasktop made up. It is a new way to manage software delivery organization, from delivery focusing on products and their value streams. Tasktop has come up with an implementation of value stream management. We call it the flow framework. And it is our structured and prescriptive approach to executing value stream management. And how that ties together is, at the bottom, you want to integrate your tools together, and then you add that to the visibility into your value stream, and that gives you the connectivity to the business. So it is a multi-step approach. And as I said, value stream management is an industry term. It's not something that we made up. So Forrester did a big review on it last year, and you can think of all the other companies out there in the world that say they do value stream management, and they do, but each of them are in their own little silo of what they focus on. They focus on, application lifecycle management, CI/CD, release, and they're all good or bad or so-so in everything they do. But Forrester pointed out that Tasktop is the only enabling technology. And since we are an integration tool, that's what we do, is we can help enable across all of these tool sets your value stream management and a value stream architecture. Okay. So what happens when you do this? You get to measure things. What are you going to measure? You're going to measure how long did it take for this feature to get through the value stream? How much wait time was there for defects? What is the distribution between the defects, the features, the risks, and the technical debt? These are good measurements. I talked a little while ago about on another slide about proxy metrics. There are hundreds or thousands of metrics that IT can look at, but some of the metrics, like how many builds did I do today, or how many people are trained in Scrum, those are proxy metrics. They give you numbers, but they don't tell you if the business is moving forward. They don't tell you if you're giving value to the business. How many releases did I do today? I did 10 releases today. Great. What features were in those releases? I don't know. Or did the business get value from it? Did we make any more sales because of it? I don't know, but I did 10 releases. So if you can track these flow items, then you can start talking to the business a lot more. And you can only track the flow items if you do value stream architecture and value stream management, so tying your tools end to end. One of the things you could track, and one of the things that is a topic of conversation between different teams, is time. Is it lead time? Is it flow time? Is it cycle time? So cycle time in the bottom in the blue is more of that development. Something came in, I worked on it, something came out, I'm done. And then it went to the testers. Hey, it came in, I tested it, I'm done. Then it went to the release people. Hey, it came in, I released it, I'm done. So that's cycle time, in and out in each of the individual tools, individual teams. But cycle time really relates back to that Barclays slide, that they are so, agile in their development. If you look left and right of that, if the end-to-end process, really lead time. Some people track lead time, and lead time is when the customer says, I would like X, I would like this new feature. And that's when lead time starts, and it goes until it is released into running software. But a lot of time that doesn't work because people request things that may never make it into the product. I would like the home screen to be purple with yellow polka dots. That's a great request. It'll never happen. So your numbers for lead time are going to get, kind of, the average is going to go up because there's a lot of features that you will never work on. Flow time is in the middle of that. Flow time is where there has been a request for something to happen or a new feature in the tool. And once it is approved, yes, we are going to start working on that. Not mean development starts tomorrow, but yes, it's going to go into the product, which means I have to do requirements, I have to break it down, then it goes to the developers, then it goes to the testers, then it goes back to the developers, then it goes back to the testers. Ultimately, it gets released and it's running software. So flow time is from from something approved to being released. And that is a better kind of concept of, or better time that you could talk to your business partners, your customers about, because it gives them a better idea of when something is approved, when is it going to come out the door. If you do value stream architecture and value stream management, you know across all of your tool sets how this feature is kind of working. And if you can map it to your different tools have many different wait states, not just wait states, but statuses. Sometimes you're working on a bug, sometimes you're working on a feature, sometimes it's waiting for someone to review it or approve it, or someone to test it, or someone to release it. So there's active time and waiting time. And if you can track across your value stream when things are active and when things are waiting, and you can track the entire flow time from beginning to end, then you can get flow efficiency. And the efficiency is active time over flow time, which means how much time I'm actually spending working on this. One of the customers we worked with, the first time we turned this on, it came out that they were active 2.5%. So their flow efficiency was 2.5%. So out of 100 days, 2.5 days, a feature was actually being touched by a human and working on it. And they went, whoa, that's bad. And we went, yes, but once they start digging into it, they could see where their wait states were. They could see that it sat for 30 days before, CAB approval, or it sat for a quarter before a specific, release happened. And that's where you can optimize. And you can't optimize unless you kind of see this in black and white, that flow efficiency is 2.5%. So now that we've kind of recommend what to do, the question is, how do I get there? How do I start? And you start by, kind of mapping out your value stream. Don't worry about IT, don't worry about tools, don't worry about anything. What is the process flow from when a business says, I would like this? How does it go into release planning and development and kind of testing and deploying? What are all the steps? Don't worry about the tools yet. And get as many people as you can into this meeting, because everybody has a different kind of piece of knowledge. So try not to miss anybody. Once you've figured out what your process is, then you also have to work on what your tools are. This is customer of ours. They did this a bunch of years ago, before anybody was really ever talking about kind of value stream management. And they said, well, everything the business puts into clarity, then it goes into rational and urban code and urban deploy. And the business people forgot about quality center, because they thought everything goes into clarity and then it flows from there. And it wasn't until you got other team members that say, wait, what about the bugs? And what about incidents that happen after the fact? Business didn't even know about quality center. They knew it happened, but they really didn't want to add it into their process. Another customer we worked about, they said, everything's in Jira. And we dug a little further, and they kept saying, no, everything's in Jira. And we said, are you sure everything's in Jira? And then one, small voice in the back of the room said, well, what about my spreadsheet? And people looked at him, and he said, those security risks that we all talk about, I have a spreadsheet. And then we work on the spreadsheet, and then we finally approve something to get in, and then someone emails the spreadsheet to Bob, and then Bob kind of puts it into Jira. Well, they didn't know that's where it came from. So that's why you need to get as many people in these rooms as possible, because not one person understands your value stream. And once you can plan that out and talk to everybody, you can get a good idea of what's happening. Okay. So what are the principles? What are you working on? What should you be thinking about when you're doing this? There's also a new type of role that we've been seeing in customers, and they're calling them the value stream architect role. Not a systems architect, not a business analyst, not a kind of engineering architect. It's for the value stream architect. And what you should be thinking about is you want to architect and integrate for flow and speed of delivery. Right? Get everything working together so your flow left to right is very simple. Well, it doesn't have to be simple, but it all works together. Implement the flow metrics. talked about a couple of them, but you don't know if you're doing good or not unless you measure it. And you can't measure it unless you tie all of your tools together. Yes, we can look at a report in Jira. Yes, we can look at a single report in ServiceNow, or yes, we can look at a single report in Quality Center. But that only tells you about that silo, and it doesn't tell you end to end. So you want to implement end-to-end metrics. So utilize these metrics in retrospectives and ask, what is slowing us down? How can we go faster? Replace request response SLAs with self-service. One of our customers got rid of they figured out that there was a 30-day review cycle for any security risks. So when they finished some code, it could take up to 30 days for the security team to look at it. There's 30 days in your wait state. There's 30 days in your flow time. There's 30 days of bad efficiency because it's not doing anything. So they implemented a self-service / SLA, and they needed a security team to look at it. It was put in as a request, and the security team did it ad hoc. And the only way they knew this was happening is because they implemented the flow metrics and saw this huge wait state and then kind of dug into it. Everybody knew it was there, but no one didn't really pop up and say this is a problem until they saw how it affected the efficiency. So create continuous improvement initiatives, which are prioritized with other work and made visible. Keep going. This is not a once and done. This is a keep working on it. And I'll talk about some of those things in a little bit. So where do you start? Again, start with your tools. What tools am I using from the ideate to create to operate to release? And this is just a sample. Not all tools are here, but figure out what tools you have in your value stream and how the data is flowing. Once you figure out how the data is flowing, figure out the integration model, which is what artifacts or work items are flowing between these tools, because they're all the same thing, but they're called differently. They're bugs, incidents, tickets, issues, but they all have the same type of data between them. A requirement and a epic or a story are the same. A request flows into a requirement. So figure out what your integration model should be, and then figure out in each of the tools how the data should flow. Right? I want requests going into features. I want features flowing up to requirements. I want defects and bugs flowing back and forth between the tools. I don't want duplicate entry. I don't want manual entry. I don't want to miss anything. To get your value stream working together, you need to integrate your tools together. Remove the silos. Have everything play well together. So real customer here, this is their value stream architecture diagram. We help put this together with customers. It's something that I do on a weekly, daily basis, sitting with customers and coming up with these types of diagrams. But ultimately, you see there's lots of different artifacts, work items, lots of different tools, lots of different data flowing back and forth in many directions. This is a very good kind of diagram because the customer is able to kind of integrate, get these tools working together. But you don't have to do it all at once. Start with bugs. I want bugs between Jira and Rally. And that way I get rid of duplication or manual duplication. I get rid of mistyping. I get rid of missed emails. I get rid of those annoying Monday morning meetings when people don't know the status from the other tools. Everybody sees what everybody else is updated in the status. Then they worked on tickets from Remedy over to Jira. And once they went into Jira, the bug also went over to Rally. So this was a Remedy to Jira to Rally integration, and people in Remedy didn't even know it was going over to Rally, which is great. They don't have to. Keep your users in their tools of choice. Keep them where they're comfortable, and just give them the information they need to do their job. Then they integrated epics and stories, so between the tools, and ultimately features from the business saying, I would like this new feature. I would like this new request coming in. And these are just examples of what they did, but it is it's a really good starting point in getting things working and talking together. Ultimately, you see down on the bottom, that whole release pipeline, everything that is happening in that release can come back and create bugs when something happens automatically, update stories, update features, update epics when things are done, when things are released. So people know all the tools are working together and they're getting all the data they need from all the different tools. Okay, so what do you get out of this? What are the results that come out of this? And you get, how long did it take for this feature to get through the value stream, right? That's that flow time. You know, how much wait time was there for defects? That's your flow efficiency. What's the distribution between defects and features and risks and technical debt? That tells you a lot, and I'll show you an example of our dashboard and how it has changed how we work once we started kind of visibly seeing this. So what's the point? Why should I do this? Why should I do value stream architecture? Why should I tie my tools together? Because the flow metrics that come out of this are tied to the business value. So you can go back to your business and say, I added these features for you on this day, and you should see value from that. You should have happier customers, like end users. You should get more value, more dollars into the business pocket. The flow metrics are based on outcomes. So we see what happened when. And they provide a feedback loop to improve your decisions. So it is a repetitive loop. And if you see that your flow efficiency is going, up or down, make a tweak to it, change your process, see if that helps it. If you see that your work in progress is, going up or down, dig into it, find out why. So a little internal to Tasktop. I guess these slides have a timer. Nope, maybe I double fingered it. So this is our value stream. This is inside of our Tasktop integration hub. This is our landscape view. This is what comes out when we tie all of our tools together. But for us, for Tasktop, we start with Salesforce. So when a salesman is talking to a customer and the customer says, I would like this new feature added to your tool, they enter it into Salesforce. It doesn't immediately go into production. It doesn't immediately get approved. Product looks at it. So it sits there for a while until someone says, yes, we're going to add that into the release next quarter. And then it moves over to target process, which is our kind of agile planning tool. And then ultimately it goes to Jira, where the developer sees it. And all those wings you see coming off of Jira are all the different builds that are happening in the CI/CD tools, all the different kind of testing that's happening, but they're all updating back and forth ultimately to a database. And if we get all of our data from end to end, ultimately you can get to dashboards. And business owners, executives love dashboards. So I've been with my CEO many a time, sitting in the lobby of a hotel waiting to go to a customer, and he pulls this up and he looks at it. We have 3 different value streams, product A, B, and C. He looks at the feature, defect, risks, and debt that's happening in these value streams. And those are the different colors, green, red, kind of orange, and blue. He also looks at the value that it's to the business. So if you look in the far right, you see some grayed out boxes. We're a software company. Value to us is sales. So value to us is when a customer buys more software. And even though he's looking at IT development metrics, he's tying that to business value, and that's dollars in our pocket. Are we doing more sales? He's also looking at it, in costs and, kind of full-time equivalents. So that's HR information. And then happiness. And I'll get into that in a minute, but the happiness score is how happy is that team? So if you look here, about mid last year, we were really heavily into adding new features. And at one point we went, whoa, we added too many features, and we ourselves built up a lot of technical debt and defects because we wanted to get some features out for customers. So we slowed down, actually stopped feature work for a month just to get rid of technical debt. And you have to be able to have that conversation with your business owners, with your partners, because it will be ultimately good for the business. We also noticed that this was the least happy team out of the development team. So we do a quarterly net promoter score, a quarterly questionnaire to all of our company. And it really boils down to, would you recommend Tasktop to, one of your kind of friends? And getting that type of information and tying it to a development report shows why you might not be hitting your numbers and why you're not getting features out. And from this, the CEO went and dug into it, talked to the teams, figured out what was happening, and changed it around. Ultimately, another team that was the happiest team. They were working on the newest tool, which had the newest bells and whistles, and they didn't have kind of salesmen beating down their throats, beating down their necks for new features. And this is the type of information that you need to gather. You can't gather information of how many releases I did, how many builds I did. That's great for are you working, but it doesn't tell you if you're adding value to the business. To add value to the business, you need to be able to look at your metrics. To look at your metrics, you need to be able to have your entire value stream architected left to right, all of your tools working together. Then you can see what's happening in your business. So some advice. For the business leaders on the call, so ensure that your product portfolio and value stream metrics are tracked. Empower your delivery teams to allocate flow distribution to match your strategy. And know that hitting your North Star requires global focus, right? Not just features. You have to do debt reduction and risk reduction. For your technology folks out there, create your value stream network by connecting to your tool network, which means even though you're using the same tools to do all of your development, your value streams are going to be different for each product line. So an example is some of your teams are working on the mobile app. Some of the teams are working on something for finance. Some of the teams are working on, the web app or the web page. So each of those is a different value stream. Even though it's the same tool network, you're using your tools differently. So when you connect your tools, then start thinking of what is the value stream for each individual product. And then you can report at the product level. So define your value stream architecture and mapping to the product model. I just said that. Use the flow metrics to identify the bottlenecks, dependencies, and opportunities. You can't find the bottlenecks unless you measure. And you can't measure unless you tie everything together in the value stream. For the organization, align your products, applications, agile teams, and software architecture in a product model instead of a team model. So patterns for success. Start small and experiment. I was a developer 100 years ago, and whenever I started a new piece of code, I got 2 lines of code working together, and then I added 2 more lines and 10 more lines and 50 more lines. You can't do this all in one big shot. You have to start small and then just add to it. So create a flow team. Get that type of new person, that value stream architect kind of role that can spearhead this. Don't fall in love with the process or technology, right? Fall in love with getting better. When you make changes and it works, everybody's happy, and just keep going with that. Adopt the strangler patterns and build scaffolding. So take that old software and kind of be able to kind of migrate to newer tools. Let others take credit and share the stories. It's always good. Look at what success has been made rather than focus on how much more could be done. Again, little increments. If you never realize how much work you can get done when you're just doing little increments, little increments, little increments. Yes, it looks bad day to day, but when you look back 6 months, look back a year, you'll see huge gains that you've made. So be truthful, especially with the business. This is hard work. Yes, it's a 45-minute, hour presentation, but this takes years to get this all working together. So that's why you have to start small. Systems thinking to optimize the whole. think of the BMW plant. That plant works together as an entire organism. The plant is their product and it spits out cars. Your tool chain should be a single product and it should be tied together so you can get development, get kind of releases out the door. Next steps. So we have a free value stream architecture consulting session. That's where myself or someone like me on my team works with you to kind of ask these questions and get these ideas out of you and come up with that value stream architecture diagram to give it to you and say, you know, look at this and work with the business and how can this all work together. There's a full value stream training class. It is free. It's on our website. You can sign up for it. Or we can do, it's a Flow 101 workshop, Flow 101 workshop with Dominica. So 2-day on-site, really in-depth kind of workshop that helps get all this information out. That's me. I've been talking for 45 minutes. I'm going to pass it back, see if there's any questions from the crowd.
Yes, thank you, Dan. We did get a few questions. As a reminder, if you have any additional, please put them in the questions box, but let's dive in. So first one we have is, can you speak to how you're defining business outcomes? How are the outcomes translated into value streams, and are the value stream metrics tied to these outcomes?
Whew, that's a big part question. So how am I? So the metrics are tied to the business outcomes. Well, the metrics help show you where things might be slowing down, or the metrics also show you, well, if you look at the flow items, and if you look at, there's another the metric called flow load and flow efficiency and flow time, and they tell you how many features are coming out the door, how often they're coming out the door. If you can tie features to your business value, and that's inside of your business, but if you're adding more features to your product, you're adding more value to the business. If you're looking at defects, defects are making your product better, so that's value to the business. You have happier customers. If you look at the flow items of the technical debt and the risk, technical debt is, if you get rid of technical debt, that should free up your developers to do more features. If you're doing risk, then if you're working on technical risk or security risks, then that's going to save your business from any future kind of bad outcomes. Did that answer the question? I don't see the question, so I can't remember all of it.
Okay. That's great, and we can also follow up, of course, on these questions later. The next question we have is, tracking cycle time can be complex when you have teams working in an iterative model simultaneously with one another on new feature iteration and others working on defect fixing of a previous iteration. How do we track cycle time if it's not linear?
So cycle time is tracked at each of the features or defects. So each of the flow items are unique and will have their own cycle time. Each of those flow items are equated to a product and a product line, not just a project, but up to a product line. So that will tell each feature and each defect will have its own numbers. That's why we track them separately. But they all equate up to a single product. And if you remember from my slide, this one, we have 3 different product lines, and each of the product lines have different flow items and different cycle time or different flow time for each of the flow items. And that's why everything must roll up to a product. Okay.
Great, thank you. Another question we have is, how do you measure value in what flows to optimize value flow?
Value is going to be different for each customer. For us, as I said, we sell software, so it's how much our sales is. For value for another customer, that we need to talk to your business about and find out, is it more more subscriptions? Is it, you sell more stuff? It's whatever your business does. Let's say for BMW, it's how many cars do they get out the door? Their value is how many cars made it out the door without going into the rework line, because cars get pulled off the line if there's defects in them and they have to rework them. But value can come from your financial organization. It could come from your subscription organization. But if you tie it together, what's happening with your IT organization, then you can start seeing trends.
Great, thank you. That is all the time we have for today. We will be following up again for any unanswered questions, as well as a link to the recording and the slide deck from today's webinar. Thank you, Dan, for presenting, and thank you all for joining us. And we will be sending out the materials shortly. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.